It's going to be to move the decimal, and you need to move the decimal in each of the numbers in the problem, all the way to the right, counting each move. And you need to keep a record of your total moves, and that means how many times you moved it for each number in the problem. Okay? So for 3.77, I'm going to move my decimal all the way to the right. So it takes me 2 moves to move that decimal all the way to the right. This number is now 377, and it was 2 moves. Then I go to my next number. For this number, I'm going to move it all the way to the right, and for me to move it all the way to the right only takes 1 move. Okay? This new number is now 28. So what I have is 377 times 28. Keep a record of the total moves. So 2 moves and 1 move was 3 moves. And we're going to need to come back to that 3 moves later in the problem. So step 1, move the decimal in each number all the way to the right, counting each move and keeping a tally of how many moves you made total. So now we have 377 times 28, and step 2 is to multiply. At this point, you'll want to rewrite the problem so you're working vertically. I call this a horizontal problem, and I rewrote it so that I'm working vertically. This just helps me see the numbers a little better. So now we have 377 times 28, and I'm going to follow the rules for multiplying multi-digit numbers. So 8 times 7 is 56, and I carry my 5 over. And then 8 times 7 is 56, and now I need to add 5 more to that from my previous 56. So I'm going to say 56 plus 5, and that's going to give me 61. I carry my 6 over. Now I say 8 times 3. Well, 8 times 3 is 24, and I want to add my carried over 6 to that. So 24 plus 6 is 30. Now I'm just going to write 30 because I have no more numbers, so I'm going to write my final 30. So 8 times 7 was 56. I wrote my 6, carried my 5. 8 times this 7 was 56. Plus 5 more was 61. I put my 1, carried my 6. 8 times 3 was 24, plus 6 was 30. Now I'm going to move on to my 2. Since my 2 is the second number to the left, I need to put a 0 in there to hold that place. And now I'm ready to do my math with my 2. 2 times 7 is 14. And I do want to make sure that I keep all of my numbers in line, 1 digit under another digit. So 2 times 7 was 14, carry my 1. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 more is 15. Carry my 1 over. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 more is 7. So now I'm finished multiplying, and now I need to find my sum of each column. So now I'm going to add 6 and 0 is 6, 1 and 4 is 5, 0 and 5 is 5, and 3 and 7 is 10. So basically, after I multiplied my 2 numbers together, I had 2 rows of information that I then had to add together to get my product. So 377 times 28 is 10,556. So now I'm ready to move on to step 3. So again, we're looking at this product, 10,556. So step 3 is to place your decimal. And again, this placement is based on the total moves from step 1. So if you remember from step 1, to get 377 from 3.77, I had to move my decimal 2 places. To get 28 from 2.8, I had to bring my decimal 1 place over, so 1 place, for a total of 3 places. So again, we need to remember that we moved the decimal a total of 3 places. So in step 3, placing our decimal, you start at the far right of the product from step 2, and you move the decimal to the left. Okay? So here is my product from step 2. So I had 377 times 28, and I got a total of 10,556. Right now, because I multiplied two whole numbers, my decimal is at the very end. In step 1, we counted that we had a total moves of 3 places. So starting at the far right, I'm going to move my decimal left, in this case, 3 places. So 1, 2, 3. So I moved it 3 places, and that puts the decimal here. Now I'm going to rewrite my answer. I have 10.556. Okay? And if we think back and use our information on estimating, we started with 3.77 times 2.8. And so if we look at our information, our product that we had after we moved the decimal, and we think about, does this make sense? Is this a reasonable answer? And we're basically saying 3 and 2, or because this is 3.7, we could round up to 4, and we could round this up to 3. So 4 times 3 is 12, and 3 times 2 is 6. And we have a product that is in between those two numbers. So 10.556 is a reasonable answer. If we had accidentally moved this decimal incorrectly, and let's say we had only moved it to here, well, then we would have had 105.56. And if we think back to our original pieces of information, 3.77 and 2.8, and we look at this number here, we can say, well, wait a minute. I'm basically saying 4 times 3, which is 12. So 105 is a much larger number. So the decimal must be in the wrong place. And then you can go back and look at your decimal movement. So it's always a good idea to think about the estimated answer so that you can make sure you've moved your decimal correctly. So 3.77 times 2.8 is 10.56. Alright, our first example is 1.06 times 0.002. So again, step 1, I want to move my decimal all the way to the right, counting how many moves. So 1, 2. So this was 2 moves, and this new number is now 106. Now I move my decimal all the way to the right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 3 moves, and this number is now 2. And I had a total of 5 moves. So now I'm ready to move on to step 2, which was multiply. So 2 times 6 is 12, carry my 1. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1, and 2 times 1 is 2. So now I'm ready to move to step 3, which is placing my decimal. So at the end of 106 times 2, the product was 212. My decimal is at the very far right, and I'm going to move it left. I need to move it 5 places, because that is the total number of moves that I made to make these two whole numbers. So 1, 2, 3. Now notice I'm out of numbers. I'm supposed to move it 5 times. So I need to keep moving my decimal. You don't want to stop here. So I'm at 3, 4, and 5. So here is where my new decimal, or where my decimal is at. And notice that I have 2 empty slots. And so the rule for those empty slots is to put zeros in them. So now I'm going to rewrite my number. I have 0.00212. So 1.06 times 0.002